Awesome. Well, thank you for joining Facebook family and those of you that will catch the replay. I'm Vaughn and I'll be your host. I have with me Sarah Mitchell and LaSandra Butler and Major Shirley Brown, and I'll let them individually introduce themselves. I'm representing Joy Restored Outreach, where we provide services for female veterans, and especially those that are unhoused with children. And you can find me here, of course, on Facebook, Vaughn M. Griggs. You can find me at Joy Restored Outreach. And yeah, so let's just kick this off. We are continuing our conversation following the National Women's History Project title, Providing Healing and Promoting Hope. Over to you, Major Shirley.
Oh, thanks, Vaughn. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me to be a part of this amazing panel. I'm happy to be here because women's health is one of the passions that I've grown to really embrace and find ways to support that campaign, promoting healing. We as women, we are the ones that bring the healing hands to our family, to our community, to the world. And we are also the ones that promote hope in others. So there's a point of returning that we can remain resilient in our hope and our healing. I have been an active advocate for women's health throughout the military in my career as a women's health nurse, also as a wellness provider, and also in my civilian time post-military. I work to provide healthcare as a health and wellness coach. My primary objective is to reach out and invite women to walk alongside them and guide them as they reach first to discover, to recall, to define their definition and their description of their optimal level of health. And also in that sense, design pathways and design plans that take them toward that destination of being their best self, being able to define what that looks like and becoming that, closing the gap between what could be and what really is. So I'm delighted to be here today to speak with you from the platforms of I guess I can say veteran nurse. I've been in nursing over 34 years. Also, as a health provider, I've been health provider in various facets, be it group creative movement, expressions of that nature that helps heal from the inside out. And also as a specialist with endocrinology that focuses on women's health specifically. So the greatest concept that we as humans can really, when we talk about defining health, oh, this or that, is far beyond the absence of disease. When we look at that preventative harm, which is vital to our well-being, but it's also optimizing in all the various pillars of life, not just in the physical sphere, but also in the mental sphere, the spiritual sphere of our existence, all these pillars, our relationship, our socioeconomic platforms, all these things play a part in the definition of optimal health. So again, I'm happy to be here and I look forward to a very fertile discussion on hope and healing.
Oh, wow, you gave us so much. I'm over here taking notes and it says here, oh, you said recall, refine, and design. Oh, wow, that's a mic drop right there within and of itself. And you touched on so many other elements, defining and optimizing life and even our social and economic. Awesome, awesome. Over to you. Oh, and I want to say this, Major Shirley Brown. She is representative of the United States Air Force. Woohoo, hoorah. I still say that our branch of chosen service commitment is the premier branch of all of our U.S. Armed Forces. That's my story, that's my belief, and I'm going to stick to that. So shout out to you, Major Shirley Brown, and thank you for your committed service to our country by way of the United States Air Force. All right, over to you, LaSandra LaSandra Butler, who is massage therapist. LaSandra visited with us on the panel 2 weeks ago, and she shared some techniques and benefits of massage therapy. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ladies, for having me on board today. It's a blessing to be here again. Um, Again, my name is LaSandra Butler. I am a massage therapist. I've been practicing for about 13 years now. Recently started the Be Well initiative, which pretty much focuses on your physical health, but also partners with those other components of your mental and your spiritual. So in that regard, I began to partner with a lot of other organizations that promote that healing component as well, whether it be from energy work, whether it be from acupuncture, whether it be from counseling, just any body work or massage pieces that can help you in your healing process. So I'm also here representing SpaKneads today. I know a lot of the people on board today are not necessarily from the Metroplex, but SpaKneads is another on-demand service that provides that healing component that doesn't make you have to like go out to an actual facility. You'll actually be able to receive services in home or in hotel or just wherever your dwelling place may be. So again, it's an on-demand service that provides that support to you. And just speaking on the terms of massage from a therapeutic standpoint, most people normally only go when they're having some kind of physical issue. But again, on that mental plane, we do hold a lot of emotions, trauma, pain, just pieces within our bodies that affect how we heal or how we don't heal. So massage therapy is another great way to give you that release to help you on your path to healing.
Appreciate you being here with us and giving us some fabulous tips and benefits of massage therapy. And we'll come back with some questions for you and how you can share the practicality of routine massages are very, very beneficial to our well-being. And Miss Sarah Mitchell, founder of Little Elf.
Close. Elf Army of Light.
F Army of Life. Yeah, I wrote that down and I didn't get my eyes to my note as soon as I needed to. Yeah, F Army of Life. And I know that you shared in the past with us, but in case we have new listeners in our audience, let us know why you started that nonprofit and the benefit of that program. Thank you, Sarah.
Absolutely. No, yeah, thank you. And also, yeah, I'm glad Major Brown is here from the Air Force, because I know last week you were outnumbered with Army. So yes. But yes, my name is Sarah and I founded Elf Army of Light in 2019. Late 2018, I was 5 months pregnant with my daughter when she died from trisomy 18. That followed a history of pregnancy loss. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of internal turmoil that I had to work through. So I took time off of work finally. And I say finally because for the previous miscarriages I had, I did not take time off of work. I went right back in. I was like, oh, this is a distraction. Obviously, anyone who has worked in trauma knows that that is not accurate. But yes, so this time I finally took time off. I went to go see a counselor. I was a part of group therapy and really working through that trauma. And as I went through that, I said, I really want a place where women who have been through pregnancy loss and infant death to be able to come regardless of background, religion, culture, country of origin, and just say like, I'm hurting, I'm here, you're not alone. One of the most powerful things was the nurse that delivered my daughter. When I was admitted, we already knew that, she had died. And my nurse said, I can't make this easier. I can bring you comfort while you're here. And that was really powerful. And, that was during the time that I was a leader for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America in Collin County, which is in North Texas. And my leaders were one of the only few who knew that I was even pregnant. because I didn't want the questions. I didn't want, the attention. And I was like going through this alone, except for them. And when they found out that my daughter had died, they set up a meal train where they, came in, they said, we love you, here's food, we're here to talk. And that was just so powerful, because so often when we go through trauma, and I mean, we've all said just stupid things, to someone who's going through trauma. And that was the big thing, was how can you be that support network? Because most people don't mean to be hurtful. They just say phenomenally hurtful things because they don't know what to say, or they don't say anything. And then you lose friends because they just sort of like fade off in the distance. So it was, okay, how can we actually help people understand that just your presence is what's healing and helpful? Like, you don't have to know what to say. It's okay for you to say, I don't know what to say, I am here. So for when I started Elf Army of Light, which ELF, so it's empathy, love, and friendship. So it just kind of focuses in on, these are the pieces that we all have in common. And after COVID started, unlike when I was in the hospital with my daughter, people don't want, external infections to come in, and they don't want people to leave with all that. So they weren't able to have that closure and being able to hold their baby, being able to really be there for the family. So we set up comfort boxes where we would take donations. We would fill these comfort boxes with just, handmade soaps and chapsticks from local DFW, small business owners, all of which I think were women. And basically just say, hey, again, just like my nurse said, this will not be easier. We can just let you know that you're not alone and that we can bring you comfort. So it was this really powerful, like, okay, we need resources, community, regardless of what happened. And just for trauma, it's this amazing thing where you try to picture yourself as, oh, I need to see this as positive. I need to do this, I need to do that. It's like, no, it's okay to not be okay. Like, we just take one step at a time, and we need to take it together.
That's great, Sarah. I like that you said it's okay not to be okay.
Yes.
And I think there's this theory that as women, we have to be strong.
Yep.
As Major Shirley stated in the beginning of her conversation, was that we are doing so much.
Yes.
We're providing for so many, but we have to take that time to say, I'm not okay.
Yes.
And I know oftentimes it's difficult to find someone that you can share that with when they have seen us be strong so long. And they say, well, you look great. Oh, wow, I'm hurting. My scars are internal, and I'm probably dealing or coping with them as best I can. But oftentimes people don't expect you to feel a certain way or whatever that is, right? And so when you're wanting to express to someone, hey, I need some downtime, I really do need to seek out a therapist. And of course, you want the proper therapist / counselor, because in my own journey of seeking some resolution, I knew that it was a challenge for me finding the therapeutic counselor that I knew was going to be beneficial. And I've had to go on that journey several times because they could only get me so far. And then it was the next thing. And even as you said, your program is open culturally and for all types of religions. Sometimes we have those beliefs that, oh, if I just pray about it, it'll go away, it will pass. And that's amazing, because this morning I was listening to well-versed scripture, and it made me think about, as you said, Sarah, some of the cliches that you hear, and people want to be available, they want to help, but they oftentimes don't know what to say. So this particular scripture, when Paul in the New Testament was saying, and I didn't write it down, I was just listening, but it made me think, right, that our present suffering cannot compare to the future glory. Well, when we're hurting, when we're in pain, we're often thinking, why me? Or why this? Or gosh, to lose a baby. I know I've had that experience in my family because I've lost a grandson. That God needed another angel. Well, why? Why this one? Or those little things that can also add to what you're already expressing, because you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't understand, right?
Yes.
So I like that you said sometimes just being present is the only comfort that individual may need. But we have to be aware to say, oh, they've gone through this or they're experiencing that. How can I be present? Because she looks good, but I know there must be something internal going on when she can express it. So back to Major Brown saying, well, hey, we're doing so much, but we have to recognize that when she said, refine, I need some refining right now. The season of life that I'm in, I'm no longer able to show up and do what I've done in the past. So, Major Brown, I'm going to ask you, when those expectancies from others are a distraction or interruption of our healing, what advice will you give? I mean, when we say, hey, look, I'm putting the brakes on, I need some downtime, I need to come back, I need to reset, I need to do me, I need to turn everything else off. Turn off the noise, turn off the expectations, don't answer the phone. I'm not coming here, there, wherever. I just gotta be refined. What are some advice that you can give to our listening audience?
Well, sometimes, Vaughn, it's quite simple. We need to just stop and embrace stillness, embrace silence, and allow ourselves to facilitate a recall and a connection with our inner self. Because there are some hurts that are become so common and so tolerated that it becomes a part of the normal life. And it's difficult to distinguish when you're well and when you're not well, or how far along you are not being well. Right. So you have to have time to recall the original you prior to the trauma, or prior to the noise, or prior to the show me where it hurts, before the hurt.
Wow.
And remember that. Allow space, stillness for reflection. Then you'll be able to distinguish between the two. And it'll help you also be able to identify the question, show me where it hurts. Mm-hmm. Because you'll be able to remember that entry point. And then you're able to confront that, make provisions for it, but definitely not ignore the fact that it hurts. Because in that hurting process, our bodies try to accommodate that. Whether it's a physical hurt, a relational hurt, or an emotional hurt, whatever the hurt is, our body has a system in it that's designed to bring us to a place of resilience. But sometimes that transition to that place of resilience, if not handled properly, will go forth and the scab will be there, but the inner sore is not healed. And we'll keep moving. And when we don't address it, even especially emotional hurt, invisible hurt, because it keeps our body at a high level of cortisol secretions, which in and of itself leads to more of an inflammatory part of our existence. And that leads to disease. So I think the first thing is to allow for stillness, allow for silence, allow for reflection. And therefore you can identify the origin of the hurt and where you need to go to start the healing.
That is absolutely great. Ooh, recall when it didn't hurt. How was life when it didn't hurt, before the pain showed up, before the situation or the circumstance introduced itself to you? What was it like prior then? Oh, wow, this is great. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. So great. Oh, wow. And because those emotional pains, right? You said slow down and stop, right? Do you find that there is a time when we don't want to stop, where we really don't want to face our own truth, right? I'm busy, I'm going, the hustle, the bustle, but can you recall maybe perhaps someone you worked with, you've provided counsel for, that says, look, I don't want to stop, because to recognize that is also another level of pain.
Right.
It's easier to keep doing and not address it than it is to stop, slow down, be silent, because when I get silent, I'm still listening
face it.
inwardly and I want to shut it all off, right? Have you ever come upon situations such as those?
Yes, I can say that personally from a personal experience in my life. It's been times that I didn't want to confront where it hurt. I didn't want the reminder. I didn't want to go back and circle back to that place because it meant that I'd have to stand face to face with that which hurt. So I built systems within, consciously and subconsciously, to become tolerant. And then I started managing the hurt, managing the impact of the trauma so that it could really fit in to where I felt, what I felt that I could tolerate. But that was not the healthy approach. I found you cannot overcome that which you choose to deny. Because if it's not real, or if it's, when we'll say, well, it's not that bad, I can deal with this, this will get better. But then that takes you to a posture of defining what is better versus what is best.
Yes.
And a lot of times we settle for better and forego best. But we have to do the work. And the work is, we have to do the work. Yeah. It is truly a heavy lift because pain is heavy. Life can get hard sometimes. But as you condition yourself for the true weight of what the weight is, then that great expectation will match the preparation and the lift will be achievable. And you won't have to settle for being somewhat better, or halfway healed, or prematurely stopped in being your optimal best. So I find that that's my story. And I tell you, when I really discovered it, it was outside of myself. I remember mentoring young girls, and they may have been 3, 4, or 5, and they were bright and brilliant and bubbly and jubilant. And they'd say, well, when I grow up, I'm going to be this, full of hope, totally whole. And then a few years passed and life came, and they experienced maybe some of their first true encounters with the hurts that life can bring upon us. And as they go through their adolescence and early teen years, I noticed a change in those same little girls. Some of the joy was gone, some of the hope was gone, and it had been placed with some doubt. Maybe the idea of, well, I thought you wanted to be this. Well, maybe, yeah, I do kind of, starting to tolerate not addressing the hurt. Then they become adults, and that dream that they had as a younger person gets lost in the journey, because what was needed to keep that dream and that hope and that wholeness alive was not addressed. It wasn't there. There was a settling, and then there was the loss of hope. And then you look at some of the people, they go through life in what appears normal, but it's very hopeless from the original self before the hurt ever came, whatever that hurt is.
Mm. This is so great. This is great. This is great. This is wonderful, wonderful. And I hope that our listening audience and those that will catch the replays make that connection that, yeah, it is necessary. It's painful. The lift is going to be hard. It's heavy, but it has to be done. It has to be done in order to be that better, not tolerate to be the better you, but go through that to be the best you. Right. And then, yeah, this is so awesome. So over to you, LaSandra, because you've heard the conversation so far. With the skill set and the expertise and practice that you offer, what would you recommend for anyone experiencing any of these types of pain that are internal, that could become from whatever cause it, as they're wanting to be refined, go back and look at the you prior to the hurt? What is something that you could recommend in your skill set?
Well, Major Brown gave a mouthful because it's pretty much a piggyback. And it's funny how all of these therapies, partner and complement one another. So I wrote down a couple of points that she had spit out, but when you look at the word disease, it's really dis-ease. When you're going through that state of disease, whether it be, mental anguish or some traumatic experience or even a physical experience, your body is in a state of dis-ease, and so pretty much it, like she said, if you don't address it, you go through a point where it starts to manifest itself in the body, whether it be, your knees start to ache, your back starts to ache, you get this pain in your side that's deep, but you don't really know what it is or how it came to be. So like she said, if you're not putting in the work, to address these issues, they're going to continue to manifest. They're going to continue to put you in a position where you're uncomfortable physically. And so also with doing the work, it's kind of like a fitness program. You can't honestly expect to go to the gym one time, and bulk up. You can't expect to get on the treadmill one day and lose, 50 pounds. It doesn't work that way. So along with your fitness program, try to think of your wellness program the same way. If you want that healing, if you want that recovery, if you want that restoration, or even that refinement, you're going to have to put in the work, whether it be, getting some yoga classes or finding different ways to meditate, or like Miss Eliza, finding a way to, get your breathing centered so, you can see and hear yourself. And along with that, what she was saying with getting somewhere and being still, sometimes it's not sometimes, all the time, when you're in those foggy spaces, you have to sit back and reflect. So you have to find a place where you're not cooking for, the kids, you're not running errands, you're not, working on projects for work, and be still, and assess where you are, physically and emotionally. Because once you're able to do that, then you're able to start to lay out your plan. You're able to start to lay out, okay, well, I think I'm going to go for a walk today, to kind of get me in, a better headspace. Or, I feel like I need someone to take care of me today. So I'm going to go get on a massage table, and let someone address the issues that I'm having, because it's just very necessary. It's kind of hard to give when you're empty. Yeah. Now you can't you can't get blood out of a turnip. It's it's hard to pour into someone or, return that love, that care, that kindness, or even just a smile, when you're empty yourself. So, you have to be repetitive in those activities of staying well. And along with being well, for massage, I don't really see a lot of people until they start to develop those patterns of disease, and it's kind of funny, we don't seem to want to get help until we're hurting. When, like she said, it's a maintenance plan, it's a preventative plan. So, again, a lot of people I don't really see until they're at a point where, oh, my arm hurts and I don't know what happened. Can you fix it? Well, no, I can't fix it, but I can help you try to identify what's wrong with it. So even going through, they have like a lot of different programs now for what they call traumatic touch. It's pretty much for people that have experienced trauma, abuse, PTSD, just any feeling or emotion that they can't actually articulate, but sometimes touch will help bring it out. And so with that, it does require some training because everybody is not prepared for what they receive as a provider when that does happen, because you get emotional responses from people who are trying to let go of emotions. So it can be crying, it can be yelling, it could be truly looking at you like they want to stab you. There are a lot of things that come out, when people are trying to let go of those feelings. But in that space, the one thing that most of those people are looking for is an opportunity to be in control of their environment. So you have to let them know that this is a safe place. This is a clinical space. You have the right to refuse service. You have the right to tell me, I don't want necessarily touch on the bottom of my foot. It triggers something for me. You can also say, I want a little more pressure. But the thing of it is, you have to understand that what comforts them could also be the same thing that triggers them. So you have to be aware of that. You have to put yourself in a space of awareness to be able to understand that sometimes touch just isn't appropriate for whatever the circumstance is.
Yeah, I could see that. Wow. As both of you were speaking about the body, what the book that came to my mind, and I can't remember the author right now, The Body Keeps a Score. The body keeps a score, that when we experience certain levels of pain, like our body absorbs that. And as you're saying, LaSandra, I don't know what's wrong with your arm. I got there, but I can help you recognize that. The stresses in our body, Major Brown, you mentioned the inflammation that can happen. LaSandra, you talked about the knee pain, and my body is over here screaming because I absolutely experienced all of that at some point in time, right? So I'm reflecting even as I'm here and I'm listening, and so appreciative you for sharing the practicality of it, but as well as opening up our eyes to the necessity of it, which tells me I need to start getting routine massages as a preventive.
Definitely.
I'm typically the one that's going to ask when I'm hurting, I'm limping, I'm dragging myself along. But, as Major Shirley was saying, hey, your body keeps a score. Really asking, where did that happen? When was it that I didn't feel the pain? And I'm thinking, even as you go to a medical physician, they'll ask you, when did you start noticing that? We have to go back to that refining. Oh, it started hurting. I don't know when I pulled that muscle. Maybe you really didn't pull a muscle. Maybe that's the body responding to the level of stress.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like even the last time I spoke, I gave everyone a takeaway. So I have another takeaway for you today. A lot of emotion we hold in our legs and our hips. And it's so funny. I don't know if it's just for women or men as well, but I know for myself, when my legs are extremely tired, I notice if I start to poke, and put pressure on them, I start to feel a little bit better. So within your calves, when you have opportunities, especially when you're sitting, just take your thumb, find the meatiest part of your calf, and just lean into it and count 3 to 5. Count 3 to 5 seconds. It's not a pleasant feeling, which kind of lets you know, you're holding on to a little of something. Might not necessarily be all that negative, but you're holding on to a little something. So just help your body release it. So just apply pressure with your thumb, into your calf muscle on the meatiest part, as much as you can tolerate. Don't sit up there and bruise yourself, but just know that our bodies are meant to heal themselves. They work continuously to try to heal themselves. And sometimes you just need to be the tool to help it.
This is very great, very great. All of it is so great from the inside out. LaSandra, I sent you over a text. I don't know if you saw that, but I got a message from the owner of SpaKneads. If you will please put that information in the chat box. so that the viewers can see that she is offering a percentage off on a special service for women this month. So if you could post that in the chat, please. And over to you, Sarah. I'm just going to pass the mic over and let you give comment, because I see you're shaking your head.
Oh
you're
my
in
goodness.
agreement like it.
So much of this has resonated, like especially with like the inflammation when you don't actually address and take care of. I started having a lot of gastrointestinal issues when it was just that constant stress, and that, you know, recognize yourself before the pain. Like that was the best part, to be able to say like, okay, this is different, and some of these will still fit and some of them won't, and that's okay. But it's like, who am I now, and which pieces of these do I need to let go, and which pieces do I need to fold in, you know, to the future. Because I had worked at, you know, a particular company and place for 14 years in, you know, various places, but I wasn't actually sharing like all of myself. And it is uncomfortable when you put that pressure on, you know, of yourself, but it actually does help release. Like when I gave my 2 weeks notice, because now obviously like I have my nonprofit, and then I also work with a local foundation. Well, it's a national foundation, but I do a lot of grief support for teachers. It's called the Grief Sensitive School Initiative, where we talk about how to interact and identify grieving students. And some of that is like, you know, how can you slightly adjust what you say? Because you're right, like even religious women, when you tell them that God had a plan for their baby to die, or that their baby is in a better place now, it is like, it's a slap in the face and like a stab in the heart, where you're just like, excuse me? Like, no, none of that is okay. So yeah, it's just a matter of like, hey, instead of saying this, say this. And it's true, because when I gave my 2 weeks notice and I said, this is where I'm going, like I'm starting this nonprofit and this is what happened to me and this is my story, people that I had known for a decade were coming up to me and saying, you know, here's my story, here's my sister's story, here's what happened to my sister, here's what happened to my wife. And it was just like, oh my God, there's this undercurrent of pain that we never discuss. But as soon as you take that first step with vulnerability and say, you know, this is what's going on, suddenly all those walls and all those taboos come crashing down. Like we do need to talk about the fact, you know, that stress is unhealthy. We need to talk about the fact that counseling, you know, yes, there is that uncomfortable pressure, and then there's that release where it's okay, I now can face who I am now. I can identify, oh my goodness, I've actually been having this issue for quite a while, and here's how it's affecting me and my health. Like that's huge. So you're totally right. Like as LaSandra and as Shirley were talking, it was just like, this is resonating so hard.
Yeah. Awesome. And yeah, so when you think where we started to manage and tolerate,
Yes.
really identifying in that stillness what's no longer serving me,
Yes.
and letting others know this no longer serves me. You mentioned that resignation from your job. You realize that my time here has ended. This is where I've served. This has been the assignment up until now, but it's time to shift. And you did that personally for you, but in obeying that call, I'll say obeying the call, you identified such a great need with so many other women that were really just waiting on Sarah to show up.
Yeah,
right?
no, and that's a great point. Like figuring out like this doesn't fit anymore. And what are my new boundaries? Because you never know what someone is going through. Because we talked about this last week and this week, but a lot of trauma, a lot of pain is invisible. We don't know. And, you know, a lot of people would tell me like, oh, you know, you have this infectious laugh and you're always happy and you're always smiling. I was so surprised when you told me all this stuff. And I'm like, that kindness and that happiness was born from pain and fire. Like when you have someone who is kind, like don't assume that means nothing bad has ever happened. It's often because of everything they've been through that they're able to actually look around and say, I am so grateful for you being here with me. So it was this very interesting shift in perspective.
Amazing. And I really hope that those that will catch the replay, or maybe they're present now because I can't see that in the backdrop. I'm on one device today, but perhaps there's something that is definitely making a connection. You're feeling this conversation. You're not just hearing it, you're feeling the conversation, and you know that there's something that has been spoken or shared to you that is necessary to assist you furthering whatever journey you're on as it relates to the acceptance of the pain, the tolerance of the pain, the managing the pain, identifying the pain, refining from the pain, starting, or whatever part of this conversation with these fabulous women have been beneficial to you, or perhaps you know someone that can benefit. Major Shirley Brown, and forgive me, I have to say major, okay? All right, just say it's embedded. It's embedded. She understands. Shirley Brown, would you share what you're doing now and how they can reach you?
What I'm doing now is I'm doing several things. I'm working at a work site as a manager at a work site for a shipyard, and we develop health plans for the employees for on-site work. It's a lot leaning heavily on prevention and also disease management, but the goal is to implement prevention at such a high level that we're not having to manage that in-depth levels of morbidity and disease. I'm also in the process of building an LLC called Optimal Life Health and Wellness Coaching. And my reach is for women who have made a conscious decision not to settle for better, but are willing to thrive and walk along beside one another for best. It's called Optimal Life Health and Wellness. I'm also involved with creative movement and expression, more geared toward younger children and adolescents. And the goal is to target the impact of childhood obesity, the impact of poor self-image and self-esteem, and to be able to build that stage for them where they're able to express themselves verbally, creatively through movement, or through the works of their hands and their imagination, where we have a design where they're able to dream and then design and then implement and then move forth in that destiny.
That's awesome.
So that's some of the things I'm doing right now. And I can be reached at ssb300557@gmail.com, optimallifehealthandwellness.com. And that's where I am now.
Awesome. All of those works are so necessary, and sounds like you've identified some major needs. It's when you were talking about the health and wellness on the job. Are you at the Pascagoula shipyard?
We serve the Pascagoula shipyard, work with a place called Quad Med, HHI, Pascagoula. And we serve that community of workers and Navy.
Right. And so my mind went to the ergonomic study for the workers, right? So I teach a little bit about that under my occupational safety and health compliance. So yeah, I can definitely understand that well-being, and shout out to the employers that are recognizing the whole aspect of the employee, right? Because we're not robots, and they want you to show up and work long hours, a strenuous impact on your bodies. Well, now employers, and I think especially the conversations have opened around the pandemic, right? That people were not mentally okay. A lot of trauma was experienced for so many reasons, whether that was around loss of family, friends, acquaintances, so bereavement, right? And people were grieving in a different way, not be able to go and moralize people lost family members that were being treated in a medical center while they were sitting in the parking lot. I was thinking on yesterday, we can't forget the body bags that we saw on the news the early in the pandemic, when these individuals were not notified of someone being passed, or, someone passing away, and many of those bodies were not identified. So we've dealt with a lot, and we're still dealing with a lot. So again, shout out to the employers that are recognizing the need for wellness programs to be able to attest to the whole person, not just coming to work, getting the work done, but really, how are you? And I know that many organizations will have EAP programs,
Yes.
the employee assistant program. So oftentimes, what I have found in observance, as well as uh, the coaching that I do with employees, is that they're afraid to go. I will say, for my time in the military, it's almost an equal experience, that you didn't want to ask for help, mental health, because that was a stigma. That was putting you on the radar. If you went to mental health, that could definitely affect your assignments, your security clearance, and the list was kind of long. Back then, we've shifted over the generations to say, hey, it's okay not to be okay. And therapy is great. Therapy is needed. And I've since learned that Jesus and therapy work very well hand in hand. I need that spiritual side, but I also need that practical side, right? And so great for you giving the information of the types of work in the many communities, because you're dealing with adults in the workplace, even over to children. So that's a great pendulum that you're swinging, but you have definitely identified some very great needs for all of those communities. So over to you, LaSandra, as I mentioned, the EAP programs. Is that something that you're seeing more corporations implement, the type of services that you provide? And if so, what is that like?
It's funny you would ask, but a lot of employers are starting to do that. They welcome chair massage for their employees in like 15, 20-minute increments, and they actually allow them that time. It's not like it's something they have to, use on their lunch break, or, take advantage of before or after work. Like, they actually let them incorporate it within their work day. So there are a lot of employers that are, jumping on that to just give them that break, throughout the day, to regroup, to replenish, to do the whole, everything.
Right. Awesome. I would be the employee taking 2 long 1-hour breaks. Forget that 15-minute. I need the whole table. I need, from the top of my head to the tips of my finger to the tips of my toes. I want it all, right? So that's wonderful that your service is. And do you work with children at all?
I have worked with children, mainly for physical development. So like children that have spina bifida, or just muscle developmental issues. I haven't worked with children with any emotional pieces that they're working through. Again, that requires quite a bit of training. But on the physical side of it, for their muscle development, to keep muscles from atrophy, and just to give them that piece of movement, because sometimes just bending and moving your legs helps your digestive system. So for a lot of those children, and they suffer from constipation, and other physical ailments. So just to have that opportunity to have passive movement, someone else moving them about, helps a lot.
Okay. And where can our audience find your services?
I am with SpaKneads. It's here in the Metroplex. Again, like I said, we do, let me stop that. We do quite a bit of what we call on-demand or mobile services. So with that, you can always call and schedule an appointment. We're at SpaKneads.com, and also the same on Instagram. And if you want to just call and speak with someone in person, we're at 214-838-2677.
Yeah, and just an addition, it's needs like a
Correct,
massage.
needs.
Yes.
Not like I need a massage, but needing. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, no, I got your back, because it's very, very helpful. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And and the special, did you mention the special that's being offered this month?
I did put it in the comments. We do have our Women Making a Difference event on tomorrow evening. If you go through Eventbrite, I posted the link for you. You get a $10 off promo code. So I think it's a registration fee of 30. So if you do the promo code, it's 10. I mean, it's 20. But it just gives you an opportunity to, I think there's a Pilates session. There's opportunity to meet other people in wellness and fitness areas, and just an opportunity to be in fellowship with other women trying to promote healthier lifestyle.
All right. Providing healing and promoting hope. This has been great. Sarah, over to you. What are you doing now? And I know you shared a little bit about why you started these programs, but share what you're doing now and where you can be located.
Yes, absolutely. So my nonprofit, Elf Army of Light, which supports the pregnancy, loss, and infant death community, can be found at elfarmyoflight.org. And the grief sensitive training that I do for the Grief Sensitive School Initiative, I believe you can go to griefsensitiveschoolinitiative.org as well. If you are involved with a K through 12 school, it does also come with a $500 grant. It resonates a lot with these schools even before COVID, but especially now where they're really trying to figure out how to interact with these students, because, grief doesn't ever go away. You mold yourself with it. So, as a child, as you go through these development stages, you go through a lot of this grief and you reprocess. So it's a really nice way to say, like, instead of saying this, try saying this, or just kind of put your own opinions inside and just say, how can I help? Like, I am here. I'm here to listen. Tell me about your dad, or tell me about, the situation, and just really being there, just present, like we've talked about before. So that for me is really why I kind of had left that previous job, because it was like, okay, this is what fits now. This is like where I can provide, turn my pain into passion, into purpose, so to speak. So both of those. And then if you do need a comfort box, or if you need more information on the pregnancy, loss, and infant death community, you can email at info@elfarmyoflight.org.
Awesome. And is that grant available nationwide, or is it in particular states only?
It is nationwide. So it's a part of the, I am a part of the New York Life Foundation, and we partner with the School Crisis and Bereavement Center with Dr. David Schoenfeld. He is who created a lot of these programmings. So his trainings are kind of folded in, and it's honestly like, it's a mobile, completely free, accessible website where there's actually modules where you go in and you say, whether it's how to handle suicide, because much like we've talked about with trauma, that is trauma. When you have someone and love who has killed themselves, a lot of people feel uncomfortable with that, and therefore it's like they never existed. Like, I had a friend in high school who killed himself, and I went to a very small private Christian school, and you had like all the stigma surrounding it. It was just like, nope, he never existed. Like, it was just gone. Whereas this really teaches about, like, how can we acknowledge that human and that life and that loss without, pushing that like ideation or, glorifying the death. Like, there is a way through that where you can say, hey, we love this person, we miss this person, here's where to go for help. Here are signs that you can really identify. So it's, just like we've all mentioned, it's that taking that whole picture and filling our jug, because sometimes we need to stop and just be in that stillness and say, self-care is not selfish. And even if it was, it's okay for me to be selfish sometimes. I need help.
Right. So I am having a selfish day, a selfish week, a selfish month, however long I need to be selfish, I'm going to be selfish. And Sarah, as you were speaking, as you talked about the suicides, I was even thinking again with this pandemic, how many children have had loss in their families, but also communal loss, right?
Yes.
Why? Because gun violence, crime is escalated around North America, right? So it's not uncommon to have, you said K through 12 ages, right? So it's
Yes.
not uncommon to have a K through 12 child that hasn't at least heard about or know someone or a cousin's friend or something, and how we should not dismiss that.
Exactly.
It's happened, but how do we speak to them about it and helping them understanding that what they're feeling is okay, it's normal, and
Yes.
and getting them through that. So wonderful. And if you could share where they can apply for that grant again, please. I
Yes.
think many
So
people could
yeah,
use
there's
that.
the Grief Sensitive School Initiative. And yes, like you do have to go through their presentation because we want to make sure that you actually get the information direct. And then yes, we have no oversight on, where it goes. Every school is a little bit different. Some have created like a library space where, you can't technically have a student like alone, but it's at least a spot where, they can feel like they're in a, larger comforting environment, but they're in that stillness. Others have put together bereavement boxes or bags for the families. So everyone is a little bit different. So we don't say like, oh, you need to do this. We offer some suggestions on what other schools have done, but we let, the teachers and the staff kind of figure out what that looks like. But yeah, that's through the New York Life Foundation. And then with Elf Army of Light, I also have been partnered with some local DFW hospitals where we talk about bereavement, and a lot of nurses that want to become bereavement nurses. I've been on some parent panels where we say, here's what we needed and did get or didn't get. And some of those are absolutely, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but women of color especially, where, it's hard enough as a woman where you have to say like something isn't right, or no, periods aren't supposed to hurt this much. But we mentioned that medical bias where it's like, oh, Black women have thicker skin or this or that. And it's like, no, none of that is accurate. So they have that additional step of, no, this is not normal. This is not okay. I need help. So being able to really empower yourself and be able to teach these nurses, hey, this is what's actually going on. These are signs to look for. And just, we keep mentioning this week after week, but it's so important, just that educational piece and that self-empowerment where you say like, this is my boundary. And there's a little meme that I saw a while back ago where it was like, boundaries aren't putting up a wall. It's showing someone where the door is, where it's just like, this is what's going on, like take it or leave it. But this is my space.
Yeah, I recently saw on a news article just what you're mentioning, where schools have allocated a safe space, if you will,
Yes.
a room, a comfort room for children to get away from the classroom and all that in the environment, and go away and be there, and they have the opportunity to speak if they choose to, or not just say I'm dealing with something. But I thought that that was so important, that,
Yes.
and shout out to the administrators who have recognized the need for that. And then again, when it goes back to, like LaSandra said, the prevention. Why? We
Yes.
typically hear that the school will have counseling available after there has been a catastrophic event. There's been a shooting, there's been a suicide, right? Then we're going to have counselors on the grounds. And but what about the preventive, though, the things that
Exactly.
could be leading
Well, and
up
for the
to?
rest of the time, absolutely, because you're
Yeah,
totally right.
yeah,
Like, schools are huge now. A counselor can only handle so much, and everyone, at least, even if you're not on the same page, at least needs to be in the same chapter of the same book. So being able to have like the teachers and the staff who interact with these kids on a daily basis, for 8 hours a day or whatever, like it's just so
yeah.
important to be able to say like, okay, like I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And be able to provide resources. I don't
Yes.
know what I don't know, but
Yes.
let me see where we can get you that help. And that goes back to what you said earlier, being present, really listening as what's being said and even what's not being said, and being
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
continual resources where we can. Ladies, this has been great. I so appreciate you all for dedicating your time, your expertise, your knowledge, your wisdom. I am fulfilled, and I've got more coming with Major Shirley Brown. She is going to be present at our Women Veterans Appreciation Retreat in the Kill on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, June 10th through the 12th. She's agreed to come in and share her practical and her wisdom as it relates to trauma. As one of you said, I think it was you, Sarah, PTSD, military sexual trauma, and there's just so much, there's so much. But I want to appreciate each and every one of you for identifying where you can tap in and make a difference and be available for others, especially as we're talking about our younger children, the generation that's coming behind us. And LaSandra, you said something that I can't let pass. You said getting blood out of a turnip. Oh my
Yes.
goodness, that was one of my mother's fabulous and favorable and far too often used comments. Well, you can't get blood out of a turnip. That's all it's going to be. So I couldn't let that pass, right? What we're learning that we can pass on to the generations that are coming behind us. I want to again appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you to our listening and our viewing audience. And even if you get this after today, you didn't join the live, but you're coming in for the replay, we appreciate that. Each of the women have spoken profoundly from their heart, their transparency, and their experience. And I want to applaud each of you for doing that, because sometimes as women, we're showing up so grown, so tough, so boss that we suppress what we're really going through. But you gave space for them to recognize, refine, and say, this is not good, it's not working, this is what I'm in need of, and how they can find you for further conversation. I'm Vaughn. It's been great being your host. I look forward to our audience and you ladies joining us on next Sunday, where we will end our Women's History Month celebration. Our guest speaker next Sunday is Laurie Sell, prior Marine, and she has her own fabulous story of her journey from prior service, going through the service, as well as what she's doing outside of the service. And I'm just going to give a little hint, because you can go and Google her. Laurie, 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 Sales, Sayles, 2021. She was selected to be on the Forbes Inc. 500 list. Does that tell you that she's making some boss moves? She's making some boss moves. So she will be my guest next week. And Major Shirley, if you're available, let me talk with you offline, because I think you could be I know you could be a great benefit in that conversation. So we're going to talk offline. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you. I'm honored to have spent this time with you, and go out and make it a great day. Get some rest. Remember that wholeness. We can't offer healing if we're not being better and becoming our best at ourselves. So God bless you. Shout out to you wherever you are. And I bid you farewell. Stay well, stay safe.